Yaz Island, it is going to reach a high of 111 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is fucking hot. What is up, guys? Fight Fiend Migs here, coming at you with a new video. Thanks for taking the time to stop by and check it out. If you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel. If you're coming back, welcome back, and thank you for coming back. Before I get started, I want to say I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. Places are starting to open back up now, and because they are opening up, there has been an increase and spike in COVID cases, of course, right? We kind of figured that was going to happen. So if you guys can, please wash your hands and wear your masks and the social distancing and all that good shit. If you can, please, for your own health and for everyone else's health, of course. Also, don't forget to check me out on fightnetradio.com with Lee Honish and Andrew Lapachet. It is a boxing-related radio show with a little bit of funnies here and there. And lastly, you can catch me on Instagram at FightFiendMigs. Make sure to follow me there. And then, of course, here on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, and do all that good shit, if you will. All right, so on to the topic of the video. I have my laptop here to my left. The UFC Fight Island or UFC 251 fight predictions. Now, usually when I do fight predictions, I usually just predict the main event or the main event and the co-main event, generally title fights. This particular card has 3 title fights, so I'm going to do the predictions for all 3. Because there's 5 fights on the main card, I might as well just do the prediction on the other 2 fights while I'm at it. Now, usually when it comes to my predictions, there's a saying in the fight game that you're only as good as your last fight. I don't necessarily think that's true when it comes to MMA specifically because it's so unpredictable. So I like to take a look at a fighter's last 3 fights to kind of get a better idea and gauge the outcome of their next fight. I'm only going to do that with the title fights, though. I don't want to do that with the other 2 fights because, I mean, honestly, no one wants to sit through like a half-hour video of fight predictions. So I don't have that kind of, attention or what is it, audience retention yet, I guess. So I can't do that shit. I don't plan on doing that. I like making short videos for you guys. I don't like to take up too much more of your time. All right, so moving on to the topic. So check this out. There's one thing that hasn't been talked about too much, and maybe I'm making it more of a big deal than it really is. But Yaz Island. For those of you who haven't seen some of the photos that have been released on social media, I'll put some up here. But basically, it's an octagon on the fucking beach. Like, literally on the beach. For those of you wrestling fans out there, imagine Bash at the Beach 1995. WCW Bash at the Beach 1995. That is literally what it is. It's basically a friggin' octagon on a beach connected to, like, tents or some little buildings for the fighters to warm up and all this shit. So, Bash at the Beach 1995 was on, I think it was Huntington Beach, California. This is going to be in Yaz Island in, Abu Dhabi. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys, have taken a look at the photos. I don't know. I assume that the construction isn't done because there is no, like, canopy over the cage. I live in Vegas, and Caesar's Palace for years had epic boxing fights during like the 80s and even the early 90s, and they had a canopy. The Caesar's Palace was basically like an open parking lot, really, and they had 4 sets of bleachers. It was the outdoor pavilion, and I mean, it's a desert here, so some of these fighters were sweating up a fucking storm during their fights. I don't know if there's going to be a canopy over the cage to help with the shade at least, but this Saturday, the 11th, as far as I can tell here in Yaz Island, it is going to reach a high of 111 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is fucking hot. I have to assume there's going to be some sort of, I don't know, fans or something, like with the mist fans or misters blowing. I mean, I can imagine, for those of you who remember anything about WCW Bash at the Beach, when they did have it on the beach, a lot of the fighters a lot of the wrestlers were complaining that the canvas was hella fucking hot and the ropes was hella hot because it was literally on the beach. I can imagine this is going to be the case here. It's going to be hot, especially when the fighters are like in a clinch up against the fence. That fence is going to be fucking hot. It's a chain link fence. what else? The stairs, are the stairs going to be fucking hot? As the fighters come up, who the fuck knows what else? So I assume there's going to be some precautions, some fans, some canopy or something. But somewhere around 8 p.m. it's still going to be in the 90s. I don't know how much hotter. We're looking at. It's going to reach a peak around 2 or 3 p.m. That's when it's going to reach 111. Sometime around pay-per-view time, like when the pay-per-view starts, it's going to be still in the high 90s or at least 100. And then once main event starts, which is later on that evening, it's still going to be in the 90s. It's going to be in the low 90s. So I don't know if that's going to play a factor or not. I'm going to bring that topic, or I'm going to bring that point up in a few of my fight predictions here as I get started. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be a high of 111 in Yaz Island on Saturday. Fuck. All right. So starting with the fight predictions here. The first fight of the pay-per-view card is Amanda Ribas, who I affectionately call the Hype Train Derailer, versus Paige Van Zandt. Now, let's be real here. One of the main reasons Paige Van Zandt is even still in the UFC is because she's blonde. She shows some skin, and she's got fake tits. All right, she's an okay fighter. I'm not gonna say she's not, but realistically, she's only as far as she is because of her looks. She has a decent record. Yeah, 8-4. It's not bad. I mean, really, like that record isn't too bad. Taking a look at her level of competition, she's lost to some top-notch people. But this one, I think this one's pretty easy. I don't think we have to really dissect this one too much. Amanda Ribas is going to take it. I know that I call her the Hype Train Derailer because of her last victory over, or I'm thinking of the victory before that over Mackenzie Dern. So of course that Hype Train was came to a screeching halt at the hands of Ribas, the ass whooping that she got. So this one, I don't think Ribas is going to be able to finish Paige though, because she is pretty tough. Paige is pretty tough. I don't think she has the power to knock her out. Maybe drop her, but I don't anticipate her, Amanda Ribas, finishing Paige. I'm going to say 3 rounds, unanimous decision. It's going to go the distance. All right. Moving on to the next bout, it's going to be Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas. This is a rematch of their title fight, their strawweight title fight, a year and a half ago, I think it was, January of 2019, if I'm not mistaken. This is a rematch. The winner of that first fight was Jessica Andrade by damn near spiking Namajunas onto her fucking head. It's pretty much illegal, but she played it off as if it was an accident. She really tried to slam her, or at least on her head. Anyway, she ended up getting the victory. Excuse me. If you guys watched that first round, Namajunas put on a fucking clinic, like a fucking clinic. And if we see that same Rose in this rematch, Rose is taking this fight. Plain and simple, she's going to school her the way she did in that first round. I kind of feel like ultimately it depends on where Rose's head is, because after that fight, after that loss to Andrade, she was kind of unsure if she was going to come back or not. I sensed that she got a little spooked. And I'm not saying, she's chicken shit by any stretch. I'm not saying that at all. But you know how like let's say you're driving in the rain and you get in a car accident because of the rain, you're kind of a little timid to drive in the rain again. I kind of feel like that's what happened here with Rose. She got knocked out. She had never been knocked out in her career prior to her loss to Andrade. And it was a pretty serious knockout. Like the way she landed on her head, like it could have been a lot worse. It really could have been a lot worse. And I think it kind of spooked her a bit. Like, oh shit, she's a little timid to get back into the cage, because it was her first loss by KO, and it was a pretty serious one. So I feel like maybe she was a little bit timid, and that's why it took her a while to get back. If that's just my assumption, of course. But if she's made up her mind and she's coming back, of course, if we see that Rose from that first fight, she's taken it. I do feel that she's mentally strong enough to come back from that loss. I feel like Rose is going to take this fight. I don't think that she'll be able to finish Andrade. I want to say she's going to school her for the 3 rounds. So I'm going to say unanimous decision for Rose Namajunas on that one. All right, moving on to the first title bout of the card. This one I will go into a little bit more depth, or the title fights, I should say. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I call him Peter, but it's like Piotr or something like that. Jan versus Jose Aldo. Now, I don't think Jose Aldo, to be honest, deserves this title shot. He was going to get the title shot against Henry Cejudo before this outbreak happened and before the pandemic kind of halted that. I don't think he even deserves a spot there, but you know what? If he wins, this is, by the way, this is for the UFC Bantamweight Championship. If he wins, this totally cements his legacy because not only was his reign at featherweight still untouched, still hasn't been untouched, um, now winning a second title in a different weight class, that really that's going to put Jose Aldo up there. I mean, if he's not already up there, he's going to be up there as one of the legendary Brazilian mixed martial artists in history. But we're talking about Peter Yan here. Yan, fuck Peter Yan. All right, so we're gonna go first with Peter Yan. His last three fights: John Dodson, Jimmy Rivera, and Uriah Faber. Two of those fights, the Dodson and Rivera fight, were by unanimous decisions, and then the Uriah Faber fight was a KO head kick. Now, that Uriah Faber fight, let's be real here. Uriah was already on the way out. Or is, I should say. I think he's already 40. I don't want to discredit that win necessarily because a win over a notable name. I mean, that's usually how it is, right? Even in boxing, the old tiger gets taken out by the young lion, right? That's kind of the way it is. And I mean, that was another example of that. We have ourselves an up and coming guy who's whooping ass, and a guy on the way out in Uriah. So two of those fights went the distance. Moving over to Jose Aldo and taking a look at his last three fights, uh, his last two were losses. Now, mind you, one was controversial. His most recent one against Marlon Moraes, that one was a split decision. I don't think he lost that fight, to be honest, guys. I think that one was a lot. I mean, it was close, of course. I never like to call close fights robberies because a close fight, by definition, could have gone either way. And it just so happens they didn't go the way of the fighter that I would have liked. So I will never call close fights robberies, but that one kind of sucked because I did think that Jose Aldo won that one. Um, so then before that was a decision loss to Volkanovski, who's going to be in the co-main event, and then against Moicano. Those were the last three fights. He defeated Moicano by TKO, lost to Volkanovski by decision, and then lost by split decision to Marlon Moraes. So, um, like I said earlier, I don't think Jose really should be here, but they're giving him the title shot. I Jose Aldo in his fight against Marlon Moraes, if I'm not mistaken, that was his bantamweight debut, and he actually made 136. That was the weight that he made on weight night on weight day, 136. This is a title fight, so when it comes to title fights, there is no 1 pound allowance. So he's gonna have to make 135 on the dot or under, which he actually never has done because his debut was at 136 bantamweight, but he made 136. Will that change? Will that make it extra harder for him for that weight cut, that extra pound? On top of the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, he has Island. How much more is that heat going to deplete him more so than just the weight cut alone? This is a 5 round title fight. I don't think that Aldo has that gas tank. I'm gonna have to go now, mind you. Peter Yan hasn't gone the 5 rounds either, so I'm not saying that he's necessarily more equipped, but he has less miles on the odometer. He's made 135 a few times before. I'm gonna have to go with Peter Yan in this one, or Piotr Yan. I want to say I don't think Jose is gonna go the full 5 rounds. I think he's gonna run out of gas late in the fight, maybe late fourth round. I'm thinking. So I'm gonna go. TKO. Piotr Yan over Jose Aldo and our new UFC Bantamweight champion, Piotr Yan, on that one. All right, cool. Moving on to the next, which is going to be the co-main event, a rematch for the UFC featherweight title between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, the previous champion. All right, so starting with Volkanovski, the champion, last three fights, Chad Mendes, which was a TKO victory, Jose Aldo, which was a unanimous decision win, and the victory over Max Holloway for the title, also a unanimous decision. Okay, so um, because those two fights, the two most recent ones, were against like top notch guys. To be honest, that Jose Aldo one, I saw that fight recently. I had to rewatch it, and he was more active. I didn't really see him ever really like stun or hurt Jose. But again, that was at 145, not 135. So maybe Jose had a little bit more, in his chin on that one. But taking a look at that, of course, the most recent fight being the victory over Holloway. I was kind of rewatching this fight recently, and just to kind of hop over to Holloway here real quick, um, his last three fights, two of them are losses actually. One because one happened to be over Dustin, or a loss to Dustin Poirier at lightweight. So I'm not even sure if I need to count that because it was at lightweight, but he did take an ass whooping in that fight. So rather it was a lightweight or where the fuck the fight happened, and he took an ass whooping during that fight. So maybe that has kind of brought him down a little bit because that was a hard fight against Dustin Poirier. That was a pretty difficult fight. But looking at Max's last three fights, the loss, a unanimous decision to Poirier, a victory over Frankie Edgar, decision as well, and then the loss to Volkanovski. So, based on that, I suspect that this fight is also going to go the distance. It's going to go the full 5 rounds. I watched that first fight again recently, and Volkanovski pretty much beat Holloway at his own game on the feet. Holloway, that's where Holloway excels. You know, he's got his reach, he's got his combinations, he has enough power at 145, but Volkanovski basically beat him to the punch and was more active, took less punishment. That one was a pretty clear cut win for Volkanovski. I don't, unless, I don't see Holloway doing anything differently or being able to do anything differently in the rematch. That being said, I'm starting to lean towards Alexander Volkanovski to keep his title. Um, I do think that one is also going to go the distance. It's going to go the full 5 rounds, and I think Volkanovski is going to keep this one. I don't see what Holloway can do differently in the rematch that he didn't do in that first fight. That's gonna, I mean, it's gonna go for takedowns. I mean, how what the fuck is he gonna do? He's gonna go for more kicks, maybe, maybe. But I mean, is that can a tiger change his stripes? This far into his career, possibly, but I highly doubt it. I'm gonna have to go with Volkanovski on this one. It's gonna be a 5 round, another unanimous decision for Volkanovski. All right, cool. Moving on to the main event, which has been all the rage this whole fucking week, right? The news of Gilbert Burns testing positive for COVID-19, having to be pulled from the fight. Not sure if that fight is even gonna, or if they were gonna keep Kamaru Usman on the fucking card or not. Ultimately, who comes in to save the day, flying in with a flying knee to save the day? None other than Jorge Masvidal. That's going to be a very interesting fight, right? That's the fight, let's be honest, that we all did legitimately want to see. By the way, shout out to my homie Martin from work, because we are talking about this the other day, and he mentioned this. How many people were talking mad shit about Masvidal for not taking the fight with Usman originally to hold out for more money? Everyone and their moms talked about how he fucked himself, how it's unprofessional, you don't sign a contract and then try to renegotiate afterwards, all this other shit. People were like just throwing his name or dragging it through the dirt on all over social media. I mean, if you see how many fucking times I've seen people like shit on Jorge for not taking that fight originally to hold out for more money, and now he's a fucking savior of this card, sorta, right? And everyone is back on his nuts again. All right, so I just wanted to bring to bring that up because everyone is all of a sudden on his nuts for coming in and saving the day, like he's doing. All right, so starting of course with the champion Kamaru Usman, his last 3 fights, I should say, the victory over Rafael dos Anjos by decision, the title-winning victory over Tyron Woodley also by decision, and then the TKO with Colby Covington. All right, 2 of those going the distance. All right. Now moving over to Jorge Masvidal. All of his 3 last fights were knockouts. The victory over Darren Till, who by the way was like the number 2 welterweight at the time. So props to George on that one. Ben Askren, who I think was the number 4 welterweight at the time, knocked him out with that flying knee. Of course, how can we all forget? As a matter of fact, I'm recording this fight, I'm recording this video exactly 1 year to the day where where Jorge landed that knee. So literally 1 year ago today, the anniversary of that flying knee and the fastest knockout in UFC history. So then, of course, after that came the Nate Diaz TKO stoppage last November. All right, so this is what I'm thinking. Jorge didn't have a full training camp here. So how good is his cardio? Again, I do have to, sorry for harping on this, but I do have to go back to that fucking heat in Abu Dhabi. Without a full training camp, How hard is the weight cut? I don't know. He doesn't look out of shape by any stretch. I don't think he ever really gets too out of shape in between fights. He seems to be making 170 easily. He's gonna have to make it on the dot for this fight. Um, how much is the weight cut gonna affect him? Last minute, of course, 6 days or something like that, and on top of that, the heat in Abu Dhabi. Um, I suspect, I suspect that he's gonna try to come out like balls to the wall early and try to take out Usman. Um, I think that he knows that he may not have a full gas tank for this fight. I mean, his cardio is good as it is, right? But I don't think he feels confident in his cardio or in his conditioning for this fight because of the short notice. Now, granted, I'm sure he was still training anyway, but not to the level of he needs to be for or what he needs to be for a title fight. That being said, I think Kamaru knows this, and he's going to try to play it safe the first few rounds. He's going to try to wear Masvidal out a little bit. I do think that the fight is going to go late into the fight, or late into the fight, I should say. Um, third, I want to say late third or early fourth round. There's where we're going to be able to see Masvidal. Like we're gonna really get to see where Masvidal's conditioning is because at that point it's gonna be hot already. It's gonna be later on in the fight. I think he's gonna try to blow his wad early. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's gonna work. I suspect that Usman is going to be able to weather the storm. He's going to be able to pretty much, I don't know if I can say shut down Masvidal entirely, but he's going to go on defense for those first few rounds, and it might even be a little bit boring. But after that, I think it's going to be kind of similar to his fight with Woodley. He's going to clinch. He's going to put him up against the cage, the hot fence, and he's going to try to work him in the clinch. Um, I think he's going to try to use his strength and his weight on Masvidal, get him even more tired. This one, I suspect, is going to go the full 5 rounds. I don't think that Kamaru has the power to, or I guess the technique, I should say, because he has the power, the technique to be able to knock Masvidal out. I don't think he'll be able to submit him either. I think Masvidal is too good of a veteran to get caught in any of those. I mean, especially considering that he had fucking Damian Maia on his back for God knows how long, and Damian wasn't able to submit him. So I don't think Usman is gonna be able to submit him either. I don't think Usman's gonna be able to knock him out either. I think they're gonna go the full 5 rounds. Damn, I'm like going all decisions here, don't I? Fuck. Damn, no one's all right. Apparently, I like decisions. Fuck, I don't know. Apparently, I do. But anyway, this one I'm gonna have to lean towards Usman. I think Usman, number one, was already going through a training camp. Granted, he was training for Gilbert Burns, who's kind of sort of more of a striker, and he was probably anticipating that. But I mean, I don't think Masvidal is going to try to take Usman to the ground. I don't think, at least. So he's the one that has had the full training camp. Yes, it is still a little bit of a disadvantage because of the opponent change, but I think he was the more prepared fighter, Usman I'm talking about, and I think he's had the longer training camp. I think he's more prepared, especially to go with the full 5 rounds, more so than Masvidal. And then on top of that, again, the heat in Abu Dhabi. I don't think that Masvidal is going to have a full tank of gas here. He's going to go and try to blow his load early, and it's not going to work. Usman is going to be able to handle the heat in the beginning, no pun intended. He's going to be able to handle Masvidal in the early rounds. So that's going to be my prediction on that one. I'm going to say Usman by 5 round decision. It might even be split decision actually, because I think in effort in the effort, I guess, for Masvidal in trying to finish the fight early in the early rounds, he's going to be winning those early rounds. I think the 1, 2, maybe even the third round, but I think he's going to start to slow down around there, and Usman is going to take over. I anticipate Usman probably taking the third, fourth, and fifth round. I think Usman is going to win a split decision. I do think so. All right, and then and I do think that's going to be a tough one, because that third round I think is going to be kind of the deciding factor. There may be a judge there that's going to end up giving it to Masvidal, I suspect. So that's what I mean by split decision. All right, so that's going to be my prediction, guys. I don't want to make this video any longer, but just a quick rundown. Ribas over Van Zandt, Andrade over Namajunas, Jan over Aldo, Volkanovski over Holloway, and Usman over Masvidal. All right, cool. Thank you guys for taking the time to check out my video. I appreciate it. I hope I didn't make it too long. Please, by all means, let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think is going to win? Why? How? I've said this countless times before. You know, when it comes to a fight or a basketball game or football game, anybody can get it right. Right? It's pretty much like you got a 50-50 chance. Flip a coin. This person's going to win. Tell me how that person's going to win, and then I know what you're talking about, and I know you're not just full of shit. So, by all means, guys, let me know who you guys think is going to win, how they think they're going to win, or how you guys think he or she is going to win, and I'll gladly reply. And then, I'll make sure to post. I might post a post-fight video later on after the card. By the way, I am ordering this on pay-per-view. So, anyway, thank you once more for checking out my video, guys. Please, once more, stay safe, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.